I moved to Los Angeles in 1983, and was basically an unemployed musician. And a buddy of mine, Nicolas Cage, I was filling out job applications, and Nick suggested that I meet his agent because he felt I should be an actor.
Why?
Don't know.
Don't know.
Still don't know. Yeah, I mean, and for me, it was really just, I just thought, well, you know, at this point, I'll do anything. I just got to pay the rent. You know, I was on the verge of being evicted. And somebody hands you the ball, and you run, you know. I mean, and if you get hit, you get hit. Maybe you make it through. You never know. But, I mean, I just know that somebody handed me the ball at a certain point, and I was hungry enough to keep running, and I'm still running. I maintain a hunger, but not an ambition. I started playing the guitar at the age of 12. Yeah, it was the first real passion that I had. So I literally don't remember going through puberty because I locked myself in a room at the age of 12, 13, and just played the guitar. I learned things off records and taught myself how to play. And it was my life. And it was the only solace. It was the only sanctuary. It was the only security. It was my first love.
You have to realize that whatever your day is, whatever you're doing, whatever your job is, whatever people think of you or project you to be, none of it matters, really, until you look round and see people who are in need. And I think that probably the best benefit of my job is to help to make people smile who otherwise wouldn't or couldn't have a smile on their face. So, yeah. That's my idea. I began to study at various places, you know, the Loft Studio, studied with some other teachers. I read all the books that you could read, and all that was great, but you realize that the only way to learn how to, it's not act necessarily. The only way to learn how to react and behave, because it's just behavior and it's reaction, was to do it. It's on-the-job training. It's trial by fire. So I did my best to work up my own approach towards the character and such. To go into a place where, you know, I mean, I spent time in Great Ormond Street, where it was, I was the parent when my daughter was ill, and it was, I mean, it was, I've known darkness in my life, but that was the darkest period ever, you know. I'd always kind of done these visits, but after that, the visits became more and more important because the kids, bless them, you know, they're so strong, they're so courageous. Parents are the ones who are slowly dying, and to be able to bring a smile or a giggle to these people is it means everything in the world to me. Even, you know, when I was a kid back then, I didn't want to do the formulaic pitter-patter stuff, you know. I thought, well, if I'm going to go from being a musician, you know, a guitarist, to an actor, there's only one way to approach it, really, which is kind of the same way that you approach music. And so at the time, I remember thinking, I think there's a general lack of punk rock actors in the neighborhood of Hollywood. So I made this vow to myself that I would only do the things that I wanted to do, to take the road that I thought was really the only right road for me. I was pumping gas, most definitely, and printing T-shirts and selling ink pens, and, you know, I mean, anything and everything. There was a guy who I worked with many years ago, and we were talking about success and money and all that stuff. And he told me this one thing. He said, you know, money doesn't change anybody. Money reveals them, you know. Same thing with success. And I believe that, you know, wholeheartedly. I'm still exactly the guy that used to pump gas, you know. I'm still the guy that was a mechanic for a minute, you know. I'm still, exactly. I just happen to have a weirder job at the moment. One of the things that I probably should have done, not from my perspective, I mean, from my point of view, I did the right things. Every film that I've done, I'm happy that I made that choice.
I don't have any regrets whatsoever. I think any actor, given a certain amount of success or given a certain amount, you know, somebody hands you the ball, you run with it. Any actor could do that. But it's not me. It wasn't me. I was on a television series for 3 or 4 years, about 4 seasons. And I was, without question, a product. Not my own product. I was somebody else's product. And they shoved me down the throats of America, and it was a very uncomfortable situation. And I swore to myself that when I got off that show, I would do what I wanted, the way I wanted to do it. And I stick to that. So, I mean, if I had to do leading man things just to continue to be an actor, continue to work, nah, I'd rather go back to pumping gas.
If we could celebrate every breath that we take, because nothing's a guarantee. If we could celebrate the breath and the exhale, which is being alive, without, you know, oh, my car won't start. There are things that are very, very important in life that we don't think about, you know. And one of the most worrisome things that I went through for years is you're freaked out about your past. You're worried, you're scared to death of the future, but the now doesn't exist. And I think that's a grave mistake that we make.
By the time you were 15, that you were already had lived in 20 different homes, is that true?
My mom liked to move a lot. A lot.
A lot?
Yeah. One time we moved from one house to the house next door.
So how do you adjust? How do you get to be, you know, if you're going in a different school all the time?
Well, it was kind of normal. We didn't know anything else, you know. So for us, it was kind of normal.
What really helps you find that character is when you get into the ring with other actors, which pushed me. Well, the last thing I want to look like is myself, you know. I've always felt that it was important to escape. I always figured if I just did the same thing over and over, I'd not only bore myself, but I'd bore the audience, you know. I somehow, in my mind, I saw this opportunity, like a way to mesh characters like cartoon characters. So I started thinking about the parameters that were available to cartoon characters. So I tried to incorporate these kind of ideas into the character of Captain Jack Sparrow, so that I could try to push those parameters and control the sort of suspension of disbelief, to be able to control the characters' actions, words, movements. Cartoon characters can get away with things we can't. Captain Jack Sparrow can do things that I could never do. He could say things that I could never say. So it was for me a way to stretch the parameters of a character. Captain Jack Sparrow was a character that I had built from the ground up, and was something that I of course put a lot of as you do with all characters, but you put a lot of yourself.
And no one should accept anything but the truth. To have to suffer the ignorance of someone lying to you for some type of gain.
I think that the people who understand or know or get or are touched, or, you know, he's so ignorant that he makes you laugh. If they're moved by Captain Jack Sparrow in any way, I don't need a company to do that. I can just do that myself, and nobody can take that away.